Hey, shalom. Welcome, everyone. Here we are at another immersion learning. Shalom, Troy. DG. Okay, no problem. I understand your work situation. Thanks. And Vicky. Shalom. All right, we don't have a bunch in here tonight. I don't know what happened. You all get burnt out with the Exodus poem? We did a little too much, maybe? So, hey, shalom, Julie. So you have to excuse the I'm experimenting with the monitor over to the side. I couldn't get it up high like I wanted by the camera, so for tonight I'll be looking a little bit sideways. But anyway, so here we are. So I decided to do something, guys, because I was glancing through the next section where we are in here in First Kings. And it's all a bunch of architectural buildings, so many cubits by so many cubits. And if I knew that you all were advanced students, for example, then I think it'd be okay. We could do that, right? Hey, shalom, Beb 4. We could do that. But I was thinking, I'm not going to subject you to that right now. Maybe sometime in the future I can always add an addendum if you want to have the complete book of First Kings, and I can put that stuff in there. Or, yeah, I didn't think it'd be that interesting. Right, so I decided let's jump forward to chapter 8, all right, because there's still some building stuff here, but it's not that much, you know. I mean, all the stuff, pretty much all of chapter 7 is architectural, you know. I mean, I'll show you some of the pictures, you know, to give you an idea, right? Inside the temple, there's the menorahs, there's the Ark of the Covenant, right? And look, more building stuff. We got here. This is all building stuff. Building, you know, with a rim around it, Miskort Lahem, and Miskort Bain Ashalabim, and with a rim between the edges, and, you know, here's all the things that are getting built, and it's talking all about it, you know, and, you know, right, chapter 7, chapter 6, look, building, all this kind of stuff. And I don't mind going through this and reading it, you know, but, and if you check our triennial Torah portions, you know, if the Torah is all about building, like last week and the week before, I'll do it, you know, we'll do it. I just, I don't want to bore the immersion students because everybody is at a different level, right? And when you get intermediate to advanced, sometimes even that funky architecture stuff can be interesting, right? But, you know, so we have this. There's chapter 6, like build. Okay, you know, there's one thing from chapter 6 we could get. Maybe here. This is not too, it's a little bit. All right, yeah, maybe we'll do that. Okay, so from chapter 6, we'll do this one little part here where God is speaking to Shlomo. I think that's not too bad. Let me know if that's too small for you guys. And make it a bit bigger. So here's Solomon hearing from the Lord. Hey, Shalom Sosa, glad to see you here. All right, guys. All right, so he did a bunch of building stuff that we're not going to get into. And verse 11 says, oh, actually, let's pray. Aviv Malkeinu modim anachnu lefanecha, halayla hazot ken yiratzon ki anachnu yocholim lilmod tov be'einecha. Tishlach na et berachot mishamayim mima'al al Talmudai Adonai. Okay, so here we are, verse 11. Vayhi devar Adonai. So later it says, and it was the word of the Lord, right? So sometimes this is translated, the word of the Lord came, or the word of the Lord was upon somebody, but we'll just be literal. Yehi is it will be, Vayhi means and it was. So, and it was devar Adonai, the word of the Lord, El unto Shlomo, Solomon, Lamor, saying. So here he is, he's receiving the word. Verse 12. Habayet hazeh. Habayet hazeh. The house, this one. So this house, Asher, which atavone, you are building. Im telech, if, this is halach. Halach, Shalom Betty, when you have the hay is gone from halach, okay? So halach, halach, to walk or to go. And the tav at the beginning of a verb that reminds us of ata or at, right? Meaning you. So you will walk, im, if you will walk, bechukotai, bez, in, chukot are my commandments. Pardon me, chukot are commandments, and the I makes it plural, my commandments. Ve'et mishpatai, and mishpatim are judgments, we drop the mem. Mishpatei are judgments of yod, of me, the judgments of me, so my judgments, mishpatai. Ta'aseh, from asa, to do or to make, one of our Hebrew words of the day. Ta at the beginning, ata or at, so you will do. All right, so we have im telech bechukotai, if you will walk in my commandments, ve'et mishpatai, and my statutes, you could say, my judgments, ta'aseh, you will do. Ve'shamarta, shamarta, the ta at the end reminds us of ata. So shamar, to keep or safeguard. Ve'shamarta, the vav changes the time, and you will keep et kol mitzvotai, all of my commands. Okay, so now that we have this, we have these three words having to do with kinds of commandments. The word mitzvah by itself just means any kind of command. But when it's in the context of other words for commands, like we have here, hey, shalom, GN animations, then it's different. A mitzvah is a command that God gives us the reason for it, right? Keep this commandment so that calamity doesn't come, right? Keep this mitzvah, keep the shemitah so you don't get kicked out of the land, right? Honor your parents so you'll live long, etc., etc., okay? That's a mitzvah. A chukah is a command where we're not given the reason, right? Don't wear certain types of mixed materials in your garments, shatnez. We don't know. He doesn't say why, okay? And some would even argue that kosher, keeping kosher, he doesn't say why. Even though there's a lot of teachings today, shellfish is bad for blood pressure, and pork had trichinosis, and okay, maybe, but really we're not sure why he tells us to keep kosher, right? And then the mishpat, or the mishpatim, these are the commandments decided by the court, right? By God's court, the Sanhedrin, right? So God, he says to set up courts, and those courts will help to make judgments about the command. So that's what the mishpatim are, okay? Shalom, Ivan. Okay. So, im telech bechukotai, if you will walk in the commandments that I haven't given you a reason for them, ve'et mishpatai ta'aseh, and you do my judgments, ve'shamarta, and you safeguard et kol mitzvotai, all of my commands, which I gave you the reason for them, lalechet, you just have to remember. This is kind of a toughie. Lalechet is from halach, to walk, right? So, lalechet, walking, ba, in, hem, in them. Va, then, hakimoti, I will cause to kum. Kum is to arise. It's kuf, vav, mem. It's a hollow verb. That middle letter disappeared, okay? So if you're coming in late, we're just touching on part of chapter 6. Just this bubble here. Most of it's building stuff and so many cubits and shave it like this and have this. So I decided that I'm not going to torture you guys with that, because really those kinds of things I think are only interesting to people when you're kind of at an intermediate or advanced level in Hebrew. So we'll try to keep with the meat for now, okay? To keep your interest. The hey at the beginning means cause, so cause to arise. So hakimoti means I erected, or I caused to be up, okay? The vav means so, and then it changes the time. So, or then I will cause to be up et devarai. This is from davar, meaning word. Devarim means words, plural. We drop the mem, so it means words of yod, of me. Words of me. Oh, pardon me. It's not devarai. It's not divrai. I misread it. It's devari. My word. It's my word. From davar, there's no plural. It just went to devari. I just glanced at it. That's part of the problem with having the monitor over here away from the camera. I glanced so I could look at you guys again, and I didn't see the vowels right. Okay. My word. Itach. With ch. With you. Okay. Asher. Which. Dibarti. Now, literally this says I spoke, and the sages say davar is diber is stronger than amar, right? Usually it's like very serious talk, right? So I kind of feel at ease to translate even here promised. Dibarti, which I promised El unto David, or Dawid, as his name really was. Actually, it was Dawid. But would you say David? David, Avicha, father of Cha, of you, your father. Shalom, Elizabeth, and Mentat Assassin. All right, we have a minyan. Verse 13. V'shachanti betoch b'nei Yisrael. What a wonderful promise. Shachan, not to be confused with Shaka Khan, everybody, that's a long. So Shachan means to, sorry, I'm showing my age there. 80s music, grew up on 80s music. So Shachan is to indwell, to inhabit. A shokain is a neighbor, right? The Shekhinah is the part of God that the rabbis refer to that inhabits the space, right? So Shachanti, the T at the end should remind you of Ani, the Yod from Ani. So Shachanti means I inhabited, or I dwelled, and the Vav changes the time. V'shachanti, then I will dwell betoch b'nei Yisrael. Be, in. Toch is construct from Tavech, midst of, or the middle of, b'nei Yisrael, the children of Israel. Notice the soft dagesh is in the beit there, because it's preceded by no vowel sound, the schwa. Okay? Mentat got it. You're old too. All right. The kings of middle age. All right. Continuing. Velo azov et ami Yisrael. Velo, and not azov. So the verb here, you should know this. It's actually quite famous. Azav, although you probably know it in Aramaic instead. Ironically, I bet you all know this in Aramaic. In Aramaic, Shabak. Okay? You probably know Eloi, Eloi, Lama, or Lama. It shows up differently in the two Gospels, the way they write it in the Greek. One says Eli, Eli, the other says Eloi, Eloi. So one writes it in Hebrew, one writes it in Aramaic. One says Lama, one says Lama. Okay? Shabaktani is the Aramaic, but in Hebrew, Azavtani from Psalm 22. Azav is to forsake or to abandon. So here's the aleph at the beginning. When you see that aleph at the beginning of the word, the memory trigger is, it's like aleph in ani, right? Or aleph in anochi, meaning I, right? So I will abandon is what that means, or I will forsake. But he said velo, and not I will abandon. So, and I will not abandon. I will not forsake at ami. Am means people of, Yod of me. And maybe I'll tell you, if you're wondering why there's a dot there in that mem, this is because the word that am comes from is the verb amam, ayin mem mem. And amam means to be strong. So sometimes the word that looks like people shows up in very old Hebrew, like some of the older Psalms and some of the wisdom literature, which is very old Hebrew, like pre-Torah Hebrew. That language that's in those writings are usually before the Torah, the time, the way, the language that's used. It doesn't mean they're definitely written before the Torah. It just means it's that kind of language, right? So am can actually mean like strong, right? It can be or strength, right? So which makes some of the Psalms more understandable. If you're like, why does it say people here? So anyway, so Ami is my people. Israel. Yes, we are his people. All right, so that's all we're doing from chapter 6 tonight. I'm going to fast forward because, as I was showing everybody before, here's what chapter 6 is about. They're building, okay, you get doing the side chambers all around and the underneath chamber, and 5 cubits with width and the middle parts. Anyway, just all this kind of architectural language that I really don't think beginners will enjoy, and I think it's a special kind of intermediate student who enjoys it. See, there's more of it. All that kind of the sugur, the gutter, mizbech aris from cedar. They coated it with such and such. So just a lot of building stuff there, right? Building language, and if for the sake of completion you guys end up wanting to have that in there, then we could maybe have like an addendum class sometime, maybe on a Friday morning or something. I can add all that stuff in there for those who want it, or just so it's complete, I could just maybe record it myself. It's faster when we don't have the Q&A going back and forth. Look, more building stuff. Oh, this is chapter 7. 7, more building stuff. I was thinking, how am I going to make this interesting for the students? And then I realized, wait a second, no one's holding a gun to my head. We don't have to do it all. So we're just not going to do that, I think. Okay, more building stuff. There's the guy shaving it exactly like it says. There it is. Da-da-da. More buildings talking about the basin and the golden shovels and the forks, all this stuff. I'm just thinking you guys probably won't enjoy. I know maybe like 2 of you. There's a handful of you who are weird like me who loves all the stuff. I want to eat it all. But for the sake of the many, right? Let's not. Okay. Chapter 8, we're okay already. I think there's already going to be some interesting stuff there. So we're going to jump to chapter 8 now. And of course, time for me to have a drink. Just down a little bit lower. There we go. Perek Chet. That's chapter 8. Okay. Great. Deb4 says, love this. So glad to hear that. Hallelujah. I love that. I'm glad. Like-minded folks. Chapter Chet, chapter 8. Okay, oh, and here's the picture. Look, let me get myself maybe small here. Look, the Kohanim, the priests, they're carrying the Ark of the Covenant, right? Going into the temple. The people are outside watching, praising Hashem. Right, really. Good. A good time in the history. Oh, Beb4 says, how can I get that book? Okay, so this one, for First Kings, you can get this either directly from the publisher, and yeah, please do support them. Glossa House is the name of the publisher. Glossa House. Glossa house.com. You can buy it from them, or you can get it from Amazon, right? From Amazon.com. And the title of the book, this one that we're using tonight, is Illustrated First Kings in Hebrew, right? Malachim Aleph, right? And the nice picture, right? I think that's Eliyahu, the fire's coming down and consuming the sacrifice, right? And then people are saying, Adonai, Hu Elohim, God. I mean, Hashem, He is the God, right? And then here's the author, Adam Howell and Jonathan Algren, Glossa House Illustrated Biblical Texts. And the other one we use is also from Glossa House. That's for Exodus. We're using the Exodus one for our Monday and Tuesday night studies, yeah? So, all right. I wish they had something for Psalms. That'd be really cool. All right. So sometimes it's cheaper directly from their website, depending on what the shipping price is to you or not, or if you have Prime or something like that, right? So you check out their website for sure. They also have, if you're into Greek, like I've got John in Greek, and they have some other things in Greek. Although the John I was really disappointed in. Like with John, I mean, I'll just give you an example. Like, I mean, look what they do. Like, so with John, look what happens. The translation just sloppily runs up on the picture on the bottom, right? And we don't use the translation on these, but I certainly don't want it on the picture, right? Tempting you to look at it, and it's like almost on every page just like that. I don't know what happened. Like they got in a hurry or something, like, see, it's just running up onto the picture, so. But so far, the Hebrew ones I've seen are pretty good. The Hebrew ones we have. Here's the other one, Hebrew one we use. This is Illustrated Exodus in Hebrew. Right, there it is. Moshe with his shoes off at the burning bush. Right, and that one is by Carmen Joy Imes. And there we go. Gloss House Illustrated Text. It's paperback. The plastic sticker stuff is stuff that my wife put on there for me so it wouldn't get destroyed. Okay. I tend to be rough on books. Hey, Shalom Yakar. Okay. So, verse 1. Az yakhel Shlomo et Ziknei Yisrael. Let me get closer to the text. That looks kind of small. Okay. Then, Yakhel, the root is Kahal, right? So we know Kahal, right? Like the Kehillah, the Kahal. So Kahal is like an assembly, right? So Yakhel, this is the Hefil form of that verb, to cause to assemble. So then, cause to assemble, Shlomo, Solomon, et, we don't translate, Ziknei Yisrael. So this is from Zekanim, which means elders, and the mem disappears on a word when you want to say plural of, right? So Zekanim, Ziknei are elders of Yisrael, of Israel. Et kol rashei hamatot nesiyei ha'avot. Okay, that's getting kind of long, so, all right. Et, we don't translate, kol, all, rashei, from Rashim, the heads of Hamatot, the tribes. Nesiyeh, this is from Nasi. Nasi is a prince. In modern Hebrew, it means the president. But Nasi is like someone who is Nasad. Remember, NASA means to lift up. You think of the rocket lifting something up. So a Nasi is someone who's been lifted up, like he's a leader of some kind over the people, right? Maybe like nobles, something like that. So Nesiyeh, the nobles of Ha'avot, of the fathers, Livnei Yisrael, of the to the children of Israel. So really, the fathers, it means like the ancestral houses. Remember, the words in Hebrew are heavily context, right? So it's not saying that they were the princes of the fathers. It's saying of the ancestral houses, right? To the children of Israel. El HaMelech, unto the king Shlomo, Solomon. So he summoned them, he assembled them. Yerushalayim, at Jerusalem. Okay, just checking any comments. Leha'olot et Aaron. So the word here, a little hard to recognize, it's Allah. Ayin Lamed Hey, but the Hey went away. Okay, Allah is to go up, to ascend. And the Hey in front of us tells that it's a causative. We call that the Hefil Binyan, so to cause to go up. So Leha'olot, to bring up. Shalom, Christopher. Et Aaron. Aaron means a box, okay? But I'll just leave it as box and we'll let you figure out what it means. The box of Berit Adonai, the box of the covenant of Adonai. So you know what that is, right? That's the ark of the covenant. Okay. I'm not sure how they started calling it ark, but it just means box. So the ark of the covenant of Adonai, Me'er David, from Ir is city of David, of David, or Dawid, as his name would have been, Dawid in ancient Hebrew. He means she, right? If you do your pronouns. It's kind of funny, right? Who means he, me means who, he means she. Okay. And a dog is a fish. Dog means fish. Right? And if you're a Russian speaker, ani means I instead of they. So, but he, it's referring back to city, because city is feminine. From the city of David, he, which is Sion. Sion. Verse 2. Vayikahalu el hamelech. Okay. You see that dagesh in the kof? That's telling us that there's a nun stuck in there, which means in ancient Hebrew, so-called Old Semite, or Old Semitic, it would have been vayin kahel. Okay, vayin kahelu. So the nun is telling us it's passive. When you jam a nun at the beginning of the verb like that, and it's not the one for we know it's not because the yod is telling us third person, right? Yod tells us it's he or they. U tells us it's they, right? So this yod and the u, that means they. So the nun being jammed in there, it can't be for we. So it means it's the passive indicator. It means it's passive, right? Meaning the action is happening to the thing, right? So vayikahalu, so, and they were gathered, right? Not they were gathering. He's the one who does the gathering. Look, not passive. Yakhel Shlomo, Solomon gathered, okay? Vayikahalu, and they were gathered, passive. El unto Hamelech, the king, Shlomo, Solomon. I heard the camera turn off for a second, so I decided to stay frozen. Kol ish, every man Yisrael of Israel. Beyerach. It's interesting. So usually we use the word chodesh to mean month, but here it's saying yerach. Yerach is from the word yareach. Hayareach is the moon. The moon. Hayareach, yareach. kind of similar to Egyptian. In Old Egyptian, Middle Egyptian, it's Iyach. But anyway, so this is being used to mean the month, right? Just kind of like you'll hear like certain Native American tribes will talk about many moons ago, right? Meaning many months ago, etc. So sorry if that's stereotypical from a movie or something, but anyway, it's just trying to help people remember. So Be'yerach, in the month of Ha'ethanim. So we'd say Ha'etanim today, but Ha'ethanim in ancient Hebrew. That's the name of the month back then, okay? Bechag. Be is in the Chag, holiday, specifically the foot festival. This Hebrew word, look, it ends in a g sound. If you don't know the word Chag, like we say Chag Sameach, like happy holiday, then you probably have heard how Muslims make Hajj. They have Hajj. Look, it's the same thing, but a soft G, Hajj. It's a religious trip, a pilgrimage to Mecca is the Hajj that they make. It's related to this Hebrew word, Chag. The Chagim are the holidays where we were supposed to go to Jerusalem, right? So it's like a foot festival. And sometimes they're often called regalim, which is like foots, feet. Sorry, I have an alarm going off on my tablet. I apologize. All right. Oops. Okay. In the foot festival, it is HaChodesh, the month. Now we have the normal word for month. The month of Hashavi'i, the seventh one. Julie says, does a dagash inside a letter sometimes mean that letter is doubled? Yes, Julie. There are two kinds of dagashes. There's a weak dagash, and that's the one we were talking about that falls away in front of vowel sounds. And then there's a strong dagash, a dagash chazak. That one doesn't go away. Nothing makes him leave. And he's telling you there are two of those letters. It's a doubled letter, exactly. So the weak one doesn't tell you that. But they both will change the pronunciation of letters. If you have a veit and you put a dagash in it, then it's pronounced as a beit. Doesn't matter, weak dagash or strong dagash. Okay? So it's really a pronunciation aid. So for example, like here, Hamelech, this is telling us it's the ancient Hebrew word hal. That's pre-biblical times, meaning the. And the lamed is inside there, so it assimilated and made the mem double. Right? Remember my example of in plus legal? In meaning not and legal meaning legal became illegal with two L's. So if we wrote that with dagashes in English, we could write I, L, dagash, saying there's two L's, E-G-A-L, you see? And I'd still be saying, see the N is inside there, that's the dot. Same thing. So very good observation. Christopher says sometimes. Other times it's a consonant that is assimilated into, yeah, exactly. Well, Christopher, when there's a consonant assimilated in, it's going to be a strong dagash. Anytime you assimilate, it made it double, the letter doubled. So basically, you could think of like your N sound or your L sound or whatever. It became that letter. It morphed into it. That's the assimilation. Good. Focus. It's not focusing. There we go. Okay. In the seventh month. Verse 3. Vayavo'u kol ziknei Yisrael. Okay. So here's our verb ba. Right. The Baruch haba b'shem Adonai, right? So you know this one. Ba is to come or to arrive. The yod at the front and the u at the end tell us it's they. So yavo'u means they are coming, they're arriving, or they will be arriving. But then the vav changes the time. Vayavo'u, and they came. Who's the they? Kol ziknei Yisrael. All of the elders of Israel. Julie says, how do I know the difference between them? So, usually, okay, here's one way to know. If you have a dagesh, and that's the dot we're talking about, and there's a vowel sound before it, it's got to be a strong dagesh. Right? That's one way you know. The other way you know is if that dagesh, the dot, is inside of a letter that is not a begad kifat letter. Remember that mnemonic? Begad kifat? So that's Beit Gimel Dalet, that's the Begad, Kifat, Kaf, Pei, Tav. If it's in a different letter, it has to be a strong dagesh. Because those are the only letters, the Begad, Kifat, those six, that take the weak dagesh. Okay, so that's the kind of the two ways you'll know. All right? Vayis-u. Okay? Kind of hard to recognize. This is the word nasa. The noon went away and he didn't assimilate. Okay? So nasa, to lift up, similar to that word we had the Nesieh, like the nobles, the leaders, those who are lifted up. So Yiseu, they will lift up, Vayisu, and they lifted up. Who's the subject? HaKohanim, the priests. Et Ha'aron, they lifted up the box. They lifted up the chest, rather, the ark. Hey, Shalom, Brenda. Verse 4. V'ya'alu et Aron Adonai. Again, that verb Allah, ayin lamed hey, right, to go up. V'ya'alu, and they brought up et Aron, the ark of Adonai, ve'et, and the Ohel Moed. Ohel means tent of Moed. Literally, that means like the tent of the appointed time, right? But that's what we call the tent of meeting. Okay. It comes, if you're ever looking for the root in a word and you can't find it and there's a weird vav in there, try making that vav a yod and see if you recognize. So the root is actually ya'ad, which is to meet, to meet. Okay. Ve'et, and kol kalei hakodesh. Kol, all of the kalei from kalim, which are instruments, vessels, tools. This is a very flexible word, right? If it's on a woman's body, it's probably jewelry, right? If it's inside the mishkan, it's probably like a utensil, like the golden mizlog, the fork, or one of these other things, or the machtot, the grippers for grabbing the coals, etc. If it's on a man who's going into battle, it's probably a weapon. But we'll usually say kalei milchama, instruments of war, right? So very flexible word, very useful. You could have it like in the kitchen, then it's actually cooking pots and that kind of thing. Okay, so kol kalei hakodesh. All of the, if you think of a better word than like instruments or utensils, let me know in the chat over there. Hakodesh, of the sanctuary. Kodesh is sanctuary, ha is the. And so that dot is in the kuf because it assimilated the ancient lamed from hal. And actually, if you know any Arabic, they still have this ancient Hebrew, but they say al. Al is the in Arabic, right? They still have the lamed from the. But for us, it's always assimilated. It's always assimilated, the word there. So you'll have the strong dagesh, if it can take a dagesh. And so this one, Julie, we know for sure it's a strong dagesh because kuf isn't a begad kafat letter. It's not begad kafat k, right? It's just begad kafat. And the k is a kaf, not a kuf, not this one. Some call this kuf, right? So however your teacher taught you, if it's kuf or kuf, that's fine. Asher, which, ba'ohel, be, in, the ohel, the tent. V'ya'alu, and they brought otam, them. This is et plus m, the suffix for them. Who's the subject? HaKohanim, the priests. Ve'halevi'im, and the Levites. In ancient times, it would have been halwi'im. Right? This was a w. The ancient vav was always a w if it wasn't a vowel, right? That's one way that you know people are just out of touch with how Hebrew works if they tell you that God's name has a V sound in it. Not at all. Impossible. There's not any Semitic language that's ever been discovered where the vav was a V sound. Okay? It's always a w. It still is in Arabic and Ethiopic, modern Ethiopic, and these others, in Aramaic, the Syriac, the modern Aramaic. That's a living language. So only in modern Hebrew has this become a v. And you might say, well, why are we reading it as a v? Well, we don't read ancient pronunciation. For the sake of Klal Yisrael, we're reading Sephardic Hebrew. Okay, which is not my tradition. But this is what they speak in Israel, and so even though it's not the same kind of Hebrew, the pronunciation's pretty close to the way we're reading it, yeah? So, which is good. If you guys ever decide you want to learn modern Hebrew, you can, you'll be able to read all the stuff already. Okay, verse 5. Actually, let me get a drink real quick. Okay. Get a little parched. I think this is when I get most of my hydration in the day while I'm teaching. Excuse me, I'm sorry. V'hamelech, And the melech, which was one of our Hebrew words of the day, I think last Friday maybe. And the king, Shlomo, not Shlomo. Shlomo is a modern pronunciation that comes from the Yiddish. That's why it's Shlomo. It's Shlomo. And actually, Tel Avivians, people with lazy modern Hebrew pronunciation, they'll say Shlomo. That's not his name. It's Shlomo. V'chol Adat Yisrael. And all of the Ada is the word. Ada, not Ada Lovelace, not Ada the programming language, but Ada meaning congregation. And when you have a word that ends in a hey, like Ada, if you're an auditory person, you might not be thinking about the hey. So if you're an auditory learner, like you learn by listening better than reading, then if it ends in an ah sound, Ada, and then suddenly has a t at the end, Adat, that t means of. Think of that as meaning of. So the Ada of is Adat Yisrael, the congregation the congregation of Israel. Hano adim alive ito lefnei ha'aron. They were gathered alive with it, or with him, upon it, with him, lifnei, before ha'aron, the ark, mizabechim. So zevach is a sacrifice, so sacrifices tson, flocks, uvakar, and cattle, asher, which, lo yisaferu, which, okay, the word siper, or safar, is where we get sefer from, which was one of our Hebrew daily words. A sefer is a book, or a scroll. The verb siper is to recount, okay? But safar is, it's to count, not to recount a story, but to count, right? This was yin saperu. So the dagesh is telling us the noon got assimilated. That's a strong dagesh. Samech can't take a weak one. It's not a big God kifat letter. We don't say big God kifat tsu, right? So it has to be a strong dagesh. So it's saying the noon assimilate in there. There's two samechs. Yisaferu. So lo yisaferu. It's very interesting. This is an imperfect. So usually we would use this to express present tense or future. The fact that it's imperfect and it's clearly talking about the past, it's focusing on the process. Lo yisafaru, they were not counting. Like, it's hard to say it in English. Like, they were not counting. Like, it all came in, nobody's counting it even. Okay? Velo yimanu. Mane is also to count or to weigh. Velo, but it's from nu. See, it was yin manu. And the noon went inside the mem, just like he went in the samech over here. Strong dagesh tells you there's a noon in there. Not always, but in this case. Okay? And they were not counted or they were not weighed. Me rov. Me from rov. Abundance. Like, because there's so many of them. Nobody counted, nobody weighed it. Okay, verse 6. And we got about 7 minutes left. Don't be shy to ask your questions. Okay. Verse 7. Ki ha-keruvim porishim kanafayim. Sorry, I jumped to 7. I was like, wait a second, we didn't talk about that. Sorry, verse 7. Vayavi'u. And they brought, see it's bo, but it's a causative of bo. They brought, who's they? Ha-kohanim, the priests brought, et Aaron, the ark of Berit Adonai, the covenant of Adonai. El, unto Mekomo. The word Makom means place. And this is actually one of the divine epithets of God. We call him El Makom, or just Makom, or often just Hamakom, meaning the place. The place. And people find it useful to pray to him by one of his titles, depending on what we're praying about. If we're asking for justice, we say Elohim. Gam Elohei Avraham, Elohei Yitzhak, etc., etc., etc. Velohai, my God, please look at the situation, right? Judge me, judge the situation, right? Or if we're asking for mercy, we refer to him as Adonai, right? Again, not like, he'll respond how he likes. It's just tradition to kind of respond, to refer to him, El Shaddai, we're having trouble making ends meet. El Shaddai, God who provides, not really God Almighty. That's, for some reason, in the Jewish Greek it came across as Pantokrator, which means like Almighty, right? That's El Shaddai, they translate that way. But Shad is like a breast, right? He's providing, right? And Hamakom, the place, this is if you've been going through a spell and you're not feeling God in your life. We'll refer to him as Hamakom, the place, meaning the ever-present God, right? But that's not what it means here. I'm just telling you that's another meaning of the word. Makom means place, and Mekomo means place of him. His place or its place, referring to the Aron, the ark's place. El, unto, Devir Habayit. Devir, look at this word. The root of the word is davar. Davar, like the word, right? But Devir means the Holy of Holies. That's this one word. It just really shows you how the vowels make a huge impact. If you take the same root, I can say davar, which means word. I can say diber, speak, which is he spoke. Or daber, speak. Or I could say devora, if I write it defectively, which means a bee. Or I could say dever, which is pestilence, right? Pestilence. Or I could say daber, which is like subjugation. Or devir, Holy of Holies. And there's probably some words I left out, some things I didn't think of offhand, right? So it's very fascinating to me that people are very quick to discount the teachings of our sages because of tradition, right? Why do I care about tradition or whatever, right? Tradition. But then they accept our Hebrew Bible. All these dots that tell you the meanings of the words are tradition. It's tradition. So you're not going to accept like how to tie the tzitzit, right? Or you're not going to accept like how to kosher a hen or something. What do those Jews know? They rejected the Messiah, blah, 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 blah. But you do accept our Bible? By the way, I don't mean you. In general, the people who are against our traditions in general, right? Like there's something evil about it. Like it's so evil just because it's tradition or just because the rabbis said to do it that way. You see the irony? You accept the whole Hebrew Bible wholesale. The consonants, the mem, the kof, the vav, that mem, those are what are the sacred part of the text. The vowels are what were added by the Masoretes due to our tradition. 800 years after the resurrection, the death and resurrection, right, of the Mashiach, right? So all these vowels, these came much later. It's our tradition. But it tells you that this word, obviously context helps a lot too, right? I can tell in this particular place that we're not saying pestilence, right? We have the yod in there too, that helps. But you can write it without the yod, effectively. And I know that it's not saying a bee, right? That unto the bee of the house, the bite of the temple, right? But there are cases where we really depend on those vowel markers, don't we? So I just want you to be aware, especially to my Hebrew roots friends who tend to be kind of allergic to tradition, to Jewish tradition. This is the native olive tree saying, look, this is tradition. The Hebrew text, how to interpret what it means. All those vowel markers, that's tradition. So unless you're reading it without the vowels and you didn't need it to learn the meanings of the words, then you are relying on Jewish tradition. Okay? So anyway, that's that. Sorry. I'll get on my soapbox now. Devir, the Holy of Holies. Oh, you will. Don't say it. Julie says, I'm never going to get this. You will. We're immersing. Don't worry. Look, we're lucky. Every Hebrew Bible has the vowels. We have the vowels. I don't read it without the vowels unless it's from a Torah scroll or something, right? Long time ago, I was a Baal Koreh, the guy who reads the Torah scroll. And it's actually not even that bad. The thing is, once you understand what you're reading, like what I mean is you know the words, you know what they mean, then it's much easier to read without vowels. Right? But there are certain places and certain architectural terms or whatever where a word looks the same as another word. That's when you really need the vowels. And even in modern Hebrew, they will also do that. They'll put vowels sometimes to disambiguate a word, right? So don't worry, you'll get it. You'll get there. I know it seems kind of alien now, but you'll get there. You'll get comfortable with it. I've seen many students over the years. We do it in English. You do when you text somebody. Maybe not so much today with the nice keyboards, but when we had those Nokia phones, the back in the day, and you're just sending a text message. How often do you drop the vowels, right? We drop the vowels a lot. You can do it in English too, and we do a little bit, sometimes people write L8R later, right? Things like that. We do stuff in English just like in Hebrew, but because Hebrew's not our native language, it feels like it's weird, right? Yeah, Christopher says, take it slow, Julie. You will get it in time. Yeah, good encouragement. Absolutely true. You will. Look, we're jumping right in. Not everybody does it this way, right? A lot of people, they go through 2 years of Hebrew grammar first, and then they get into the text, right? But I've been teaching Hebrew to people part-time for close to 30 years now. A little bit less, maybe like 28 years now, okay? And I've seen it different ways. And I'm telling you, being in the text is really the way to go. Really the way to go. You don't have to get bogged down with all the grammar rules, because some of it's going to start coming to you, yeah? And we'll do some rules here and there too. So anyway, you'll get it, you'll get it. And the more you can supplement, the great. If you want to do grammar on the side, that's also fine. Okay. I've been trying to figure out how to do some shorts for little grammar bites for you guys. So, pray for me that I can have some wisdom on that. Okay. El unto the Holy of Holies. So you just memorize this word, devir, that means Holy of Holies. Okay, but sometimes it spells it out. It's, in fact, if you didn't know what this was and you had the scroll without the text, you're going to find out what it means over here anyway. We're going to get Hebrew parallelism. Oftentimes, when you have kind of a rare word, the Bible will give it to you in a synonym, right? Later on in the verse or in a nearby verse, and that's going to happen. So let's say we didn't know what devir was. What is that devir? Okay, it's something of habayit, of the house, meaning of the temple. Okay, El. Now we have El signifying, we're getting parallel here unto Kodesh, holy, ha Kodashim, of the holies. So this means literally the Holy of Holies. So that tells us devir means Holy of Holies. You see? Okay. They both mean the same thing. Devir equals Kodesh HaKodeshim. El unto Tachat Kanfei HaKeruvim. Tachat, underneath. Kanfei, it's from Kanfayim, which means wings. Remember we actually had the Hebrew word of the day was wing early on. HaKeruvim, of the cherubs. Okay, we're actually, wow, 46 minutes already. We're already there. Okay, well, we did do some of chapter 6, so that's why. We actually did more than it looks like. Any comments or questions before I let you guys go? So we got no class tomorrow, but we will have a Hebrew word of the day. So make sure to be checking out those shorts. Memorize them every day. Get them every day. Get those words, okay? And maybe next week I can start giving you guys some grammar nuggets also in short form, like 60 seconds or less. We'll see. Bli neder, without a promise. You guys all okay? Any questions about the text today? You're very welcome, Brenda. Thank you for the 14 likes over there. 36 views, very good. Not bad for live. I appreciate it. For our channel, it's not bad at least. Yeah, that's a good point. Thank you for that, Julie. Julie's reminding everybody in the chat, please make sure to like any previous videos you watch. Yeah, I agree. And by the way, these, I'm thinking of making this playlist that we're doing of the immersion Hebrew reading. I'm thinking of making that into also into a podcast. So that might be convenient for any of you who like to listen to podcasts if you want to refresh. You're doing some tasks around the house and you want to, let me know if you think that'd be a good idea or not. Thank you for that. Gabriel says, excellent as always. Todah. Baruch Hashem. You're very welcome. Vicky says, Todah, Rav. You're welcome. Brenda, hallelujah. 18 likes? Really? Okay. Maybe I'll catch up on my side later. I'm only seeing 15 likes. But that's great. Thank you so much, guys. Have a great rest of the week. And a peaceful Shabbat to you upcoming.